Hello, everyone. I am Matt Williamson. How's everyone doing? I am great. The combine is over. I think that this week is going to be a busy one. We've seen all sorts of folks is available for trade and releases and all that kind of stuff because the tidal wave of activity is coming, folks, and it will be here soon. But I wanted to break down two positions from the combine, quarterback and running back. And frankly, hardly any quarterbacks worked out. I mean, just a couple of them. My man Tyler Shuck was one of them and did quite well, ran really well. But I wanted to focus on just a couple of the quarterbacks they're throwing. And there's something to be said for it. You know, I call it assembly line scouting, one after another, how well they throw in the all exact same environment. Doesn't necessarily mean, you know, how you completed passes and things like that because you're working with receivers for the first time. But you want to see how the ball comes out of their hands. And I'm just looking at an alphabetic list here so I don't miss anyone that I want to talk about. But Jackson Dart from Mississippi had a fine showing. I mean, every step of the way in the postseason, he's pretty much checked the boxes, but I don't want to say he's like blown you away. Boy, he's definitely the number 3 quarterback. You got to take him at 21. I think he'll get first round buzz, probably more like early second round. We know how this position gets pushed up. He's okay. I just don't think that he's making great strides that a lot of people tend to. Now, the guy that maybe improved his stock the most in Indy was Quinn Ewers from Texas. And he dealt with some injury stuff this past year, but he's healthy and he threw the ball really well. It was a real impressive performance. I mean, he's 6'2" and an 8th, 214. Way back when he was the number 1 recruit in the country and never lived up to that, of course. I mean, it transcended, blah, blah, blah. But if you're going to use a mid-round pick on a guy, Ewers is a guy that impresses me quite a bit, or at least interests me quite a bit, I guess is a better way of phrasing that. We've talked a little about Jalen Milroe. His hand grew, or the measurement changed, by just under an inch. It went from tiny at the Senior Bowl to now acceptable, which is bizarro. It's 9 1/4 now. I don't know if he did hand stretching exercise. Did they screw it up in either Indy or Mobile? I don't know. But I would imagine if you're going to have him in your building, you should at least do your own hand size check. Who's to say? A lot of people are talking about him like this. He's this great winner from the combine throwing. I don't really see it that way because what he's done well on tape is he's a really good deep passer. And he made some really good deep passes in the Dome in Indy. What he really does bad in tape is short to intermediate passing. And his short to intermediate passing in Indy was really bad. You know, so like, I don't know why our opinions change. I read all this stuff and he was a big winner because he was completing deep balls. I'm like, yeah, but that's what he does on tape. I don't have any idea. I mentioned how few of them ran 40s. I don't have any idea why his camp would not have him run. I mean, maybe he'll run a little better at Bama's Pro Day or whatever, but with no quarterbacks running, if he would have went out and ran in the 4.3s, which I expect him to, that's all people will be talking about. I don't quite understand how his camp has handled, you know, his whole whole process here. Dylan Gabriel's another mid-round backup type, small. I thought he was fine, but he does not have a power arm. I mentioned my guy, Tyler Shuck. Love him. And I thought he was, once again, the star of the show. I think he's going to get first-round buzz. I might consider him at 21. I know that sounds insane. I would swap the Steelers' second-round pick for him in a heartbeat. He is a smidge under 6'5", 219 pounds, carries it well, plays big, throws like a big, powerful man, runs well. I am a huge Tyler Shuck fan. Will Howard did not have a very good outing, Ohio State. This limited passer, didn't control the football very well. But to his credit, I mean, he has been playing football deeper into the college season than anybody else. I mean, they won the national title. Riley Leonard, if the Steelers signed Fields, I wouldn't mind grabbing Riley Leonard. I thought he might be Taysom Hill, but he throws the ball better than that. He doesn't have a power arm either. But this guy just keeps coming and keeps coming. And there's something about him that makes me think that he will stick in this league. That's pretty much it in terms of guys whose opinion to me might have changed in any way, shape, or form at this position, quarterback. And again, this is not game stuff. A combine throwing drill shouldn't greatly influence your opinion of the quarterback class. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds and everything from NBA and college basketball to the NHL and UFC, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every three-pointer to hat trick, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. So this running back class is bonkers, and the combine made that even more obvious. Some of the numbers here were pretty ridiculous, and so many fast guys, so many explosive dudes, and it's not just the little ones. And you don't want to get too excited. You know, again, these are numbers, these aren't football. But the Steelers should try to get two of these guys. You know, a second round pick or later, although we'll talk about Hampton from North Carolina. Let's just do that first. Hampton from North Carolina is the other one I would consider at 21. I would much rather trade down. And if you're going to make your first pick a running back, which usually I don't approve of, and I'm not thrilled about it either way. Genty aside, but he's not going to be there. But Hampton was very impressive there. Everything he did got plus marks for me. You know, I mean, his numbers were good. His size, his movement skills, everything he did, I thought was quite good. He ran a 4.46, and he's a big dude. That along those lines, there were 8 running backs in Indianapolis that ran a 4.43 or better. There were also 8 running backs that had a 38-inch vertical or better at the combine. That's a ton. I mean, that's a monster number. Now, I just pulled up the 40s, which is not the most important thing for running backs, but I do want to talk about some of the guys that lit up the track. And I'm going to lead off with Bracial Tootin from Virginia Tech. Now, anyone watching tape would realize he's fast, he's explosive, he's a really good athlete. But he's a really good athlete. I mean, he is a home run threat that they absolutely could use. He's rocked up. He is powerful. I mean, he is a specimen. He's got one big knock on him. He ran a 4.3 too. The big knock on him, though, is he's a fumbler. Now, can your running back coach study this guy and be like, well, he always fumbles when he does this? Or I have a history as a coach of getting that out of players. I've dealt with that before. That's going to be a case-by-case, team-by-team situation. Or was he just unlucky? I mean, but he's going to come in with a bullseye, and he had a bullseye at Virginia Tech. That's concerning, you know. R.J. Harvey from Central Florida is a guy you need to know. Also ran a 4.4 flat. Trevor Etienne ran a 4.42. I don't know if these guys aren't every down backs to me and probably aren't the answer for the Steelers. You know, DJ Giddens from Kansas State. We've talked a lot about Travion Henderson from Ohio State. Really, I mean, he's a smaller dude. I don't think he's not a workhorse. He's not a Najee replacement, but he's one of the most explosive backs in this class, and is likely to go he probably will go in the top 40. Could sneak into the first round, probably as the third running back. I know that everyone wants explosion on offense, and there's a lot to be said for that too, but I do think you cannot get away from the old school, not Jerome Bettis necessarily, but a big bruising back in the way in this division and the way that this team is made up. So I do not want to necessarily use my first pick on a part-time home run threat type back. But there's, get right to this guy too. Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State. Like, I watched him late in the season more intently, and there were some runs where he kind of stalled out and didn't run away from opponents. But as we talked about with his quarterback, Ohio State played a lot more football and way later into the season than anybody else. And these were also big-time teams that he didn't have the breakaway runs, or when he would break away, he wouldn't finish him 80 yards downfield or whatever. And I don't want to overreact just to 140 time, but 4.48 with the way he's put together, a lot like Najee, I would strongly consider Judkins in the second round. Interestingly enough, he has a real extensive skateboarding background, which I didn't know until they interviewed him. But I'm a dork, and I'm sitting there thinking, skateboarding for a running back, that's interesting. He's probably pretty fearless. He's probably pretty creative. And he probably has really, really good balance. What do those two sports have in common? So I just found that interesting too. Another guy that I think the Steelers will be really high on is Damian Martinez from Miami. Work in progress, to say the least, and somewhat of a limited receiver, but he is a big-bodied bully. And I didn't think he'd run well, but he ran a 4.51. Like, I would have thought he'd run a 4.61. So, fourth round for a guy like Martinez, yeah, sign me up. A lot of names here. Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State, I thought hurt himself badly with a 4.61. I would drop him down boards, and I was never that high on him to begin with. But the last name I want to talk about is Iowa's Caleb Johnson. A lot of people are kind of calling him a loser of the combine because he ran a 4.57. He plays faster than that, though. He just does. He's a big back. He fits the outside zone system really well. He's got good vision. He's exactly 6'1", 224 pounds, a little bit upright, and, didn't have a great 10-yard split, or, certainly the long speed wasn't tremendous. But I never watched him and ever thought he was slow or speed deficient in any way. Now, he probably won't break Barry Sanders' 80-yard runs, but I wouldn't ding him too much from the combine just based on numbers, because his tape and his style of play is still strong. I probably would not use a Steelers second-round pick on him, but maybe this is enough where he's the best one sitting there in the third round. Cool, and so that's where I'm at on these two positions. I absolutely think the Steelers will draft a running back. I would consider taking a second one in like the 7th round, or maybe better yet is a highly compensated undrafted free agent. And that second guy would be more of the explosive scat back returner type guy to pair with Warren, and a bigger back that you drafted earlier than that. And so much quarterback stuff will be shaked out, but I would not mind one bit dipping my toe into this quarterback crop in some way, shape, or form. And I think all you by now know that Tyler Shuck is my favorite option in this draft for sure. But he's not the only one that I would sure like to see running around the fields at St. Vincent's in a couple months here. All right, everyone, hold on to your hat. Things are about to really start picking up here. There's some trade stuff floating around the league. There's a lot of releases. There's a lot of impending releases. It seems like everyone on the planet has been granted their permission to go seek a trade, which when you see that again, I've told you this before, basically that means go seek a trade before we cut you. Like Devontae Adams can go seek a trade because his contract's horrible right now. They're not going to be able to trade him because he's not worth the contract that he has right now. And they knew that when they traded for him. Steelers would be in the same boat if they were traded for Devontae Adams at the trade deadline. So a situation like that, 99% chance gets cut, and then, you're fighting with everybody else because the contract he has now is not worth who he is, and it's a knock on him. It's just the way it was structured. I think it's like an over $30 million salary right now. It's not who he is. All right, everyone. So lots to happen. I'll be on top of it for you. Take care.